By the way, we got an update for my noticeability rankings. A new number one.
Yeah, I saw it hit Twitter. I saw it was kind of all the rage across the country, really. Who's number one now?
Well, I mean, Ochai. Averaging 27 a game, so.
I thought you were going to say you, to be honest.
I'm climbing. This is basketball, friends. He is Matt Tait. I am Nick Schwerdt. Kansas has played 2 games this year. Ochai has scored 29 points and 25 points in those 2 games. Coming into this season, he had one 25-point game in his previous 3 years at Kansas, which is why the noticeability chart is just getting flipped on its head. We don't know what's going on. There's so much volatility right now, so I think we just need to wait for more results to start rolling in before we really start to analyze that data and figure out what any of it means. But through 2 games, it's an Ochai that we've never seen before, and quite frankly, I'm not even going to sit here and act like I thought that any of this was going to happen. There's part of me that feels foolish for not having seen this coming. You go back to some of the comments that we heard from Bill Self in the offseason, it's not what he was saying, it's what he wasn't saying. And when Remy Martin was being named the Big 12 Player of the Year in the preseason and getting all the love, it wasn't that he was pushing back on it, it's that he wasn't feeding into it, and I wonder how much of that was sort of his way of saying like, hey, I don't know that this is going to be Remy's team because I've seen what Ochai's doing this offseason and I've seen the sort of things that he's added to his game. And maybe you guys should just wait and see till we actually take the court.
Yeah, well, real quick about the noticeability index. It's so out of whack right now. We don't even have time to put up graphics like we did the last time. I mean, and you guys can imagine, those of you who watched the last episode.
There's not enough ink in this pen.
Have you at any point thought that Ochai was trying to go get his in these first 2 games? I mean, I think most of this is coming naturally within the offense, within the flow. Yeah, he's asserting himself for sure, but it's not like he's hunting shots or trying to take over games or trying to show with his play, I'm going to score all the points. He's just taking what's there. He's shooting a high percentage and he's putting up numbers. And I think that's pretty important because that fits him. But it also fits Kansas basketball, it fits Bill Self, and it fits what they want out of everybody.
But it doesn't fit the Ochai that we've seen the previous 3 years. And that to me is what is most sort of startling. And that's what's catching me by surprise is you're right, it does look in flow, but we're seeing him drive to the rim. We're seeing him get buckets in close. Now, he took 11 shots inside the arc versus Michigan State. And then he took 9 shots inside the arc versus Tarleton. Those are the 2 highest marks of his career in terms of 2-point attempts. So if you would have told me that he was going to go for 29 and 25 in the first 2 games of the season, I would have said, oh, he got hot from 3. They're using him as the ball handler in pick and roll situations. He's getting downhill and driving downhill and scoring at the rim in the half court, which we just didn't see in years past. So you're right. It doesn't feel like he's forcing it, but that's only because it looks like he's added elements to his game that weren't there in the past.
You know what also helps? When guys can throw you lobs. Because for a guy like Ochai, a dunk is really easy. And when you're that athletic and you've done a drill in practice that says hit your head on the backboard, guy puts it around the rim in the right place, you'll go finish it. And he's been able to do that so far. And if you think about the past couple of teams, they have not been good above the rim. They have not been good lob passers. It appears that this group has that in them. And he's on the benefiting end of that. And it's worked out for him and it's worked out for the team too. So I think his confidence is at an all-time high. I think he's locked in like you would expect a senior to be, but more importantly, like you would expect a guy who was this close to leaving for the draft to be. He was trying to turn pro and so he got good feedback and he got good advice and now he's back putting that into practice. And I'll tell you what, Nick, I was at Madison Square Garden. I was at Allen Fieldhouse early for both of those games. His focus in the pregame, unlike anything I've seen. It's always in the past been Mitch Lightfoot, first one out on the floor before the games. This year, it's been Ochai. He's the first one out there, both of those games, and he's out there with one of the managers, and he's shooting shots, and he's being very intentional with what he's doing. Like I said, he just looks like a guy who is absolutely locked in and is not going to waste 1 second of time as he pursues his path to the NBA.
I feel like we're burying the lead here because did you mention a drill at practice called hit your head on the backboard?
You haven't seen that one?
Is this a real drill?
Yeah, they put a tweet out. It was maybe during boot camp. That was the drill, and it was for everybody. But Ochai, as you might expect, was one of the better performers in that drill. If you've got a team that you can run that drill with, I think you're pretty happy if you're a head basketball coach.
KU has 2 games under their belt. Only one of them matters. Is it enough? Is it enough to say, okay, we were wrong in the offseason. This isn't going to be the Remy Martin show, and that this is Ochai's team. He's been here for 4 years. He's the leader. He's the guy everybody looks to. Like, have you seen enough to think that this is just going to be who they are and this team's identity?
Ochai's been here. He's now made 79 consecutive starts. That's 11th or 10th on KU's all-time list. He's got a chance to get as high as 2nd or 3rd. I think Remy Martin, as talented as he is and as confident as he is and as much as he brings to this roster, Remy Martin came to Kansas looking for someone to help him out too. And Ochai's definitely that guy. Remy has looked to Ochai for leadership, for guidance, for help, and to be a guy that can show him the ropes around here too. And so they get along great. They click great. They're a great 1-2 punch, and they make this team really dangerous.
So one more game, at least at the time of this recording, KU is going to be without Jalen Wilson. Once he comes back, we know he's going to have a role on the team. We don't know if he'll be in the proverbial doghouse, but the rotation's been very fluid through 2 games. It was, oddly enough, looser versus Michigan State than it was versus Tarleton, which nobody would have predicted coming into it. What do you expect to be the biggest change when we go from not having Jalen Wilson to having Jalen Wilson for KU?
It's great you brought that up, because I've been wondering if part of Ochai's success scoring points has been because Jalen's been out of the lineup. I mean, it's not to say Jalen takes anything from him, but Jalen's a capable scorer in and of himself. Maybe there have just simply been more points to gain if you're Ochai Agbaji with Jalen not in the lineup. I don't think Jalen Wilson will come back in the doghouse. I think as long as he's handled himself right and done the things he needs to do in the time that he sat out, I think Bill Self will welcome him back with open arms, largely because he couldn't stop talking about how many ways Jalen Wilson was their best player in the preseason. He talked about him in transition. He talked about him driving to the rim. He talked about him as a toughness guy, a competitor, a guy on the glass. I mean, this is a dude that they need to put on the floor, and they want to put on the floor. And so you pay your penance and you go back out and you do your thing. I think he's back in the mix almost immediately. I don't know that he starts immediately, maybe, but I don't think he'll have any trouble getting minutes. And I think then that's where it kind of trickles down to the Zach Clements, Bobby Pettiford, KJ Adams. I mean, how do those guys get minutes, and how does his return affect them? That's the biggest question for me.
A lot of people have talked about, okay, when Jalen comes back, does that mean DeJuan Harris is going to go to the bench? Is it going to be Christian Brown? Listen, Christian Brown started every game for KU last year. He's going to start every game for KU this year. At this point, if you're still trying to talk yourself into that guy coming off the bench,
stop.
And argue with your dog, because it's just not going to, it's not going to happen. Like, there's no precedent to say it will. What is going to be fascinating to see how it plays out is all the guys, basically 7 through 10 in this rotation, are going to be in a dead heat battle for who's going to get those last couple of spots. We know who 1 through 6 is going to be with Harris, Wilson, Brown. We know who those guys are going to be. But between Jalen Coleman-Lands, Bobby Pettiford, Mitch Lightfoot, Zach Clements, we have no idea how the bottom end of that rotation, and I think that competition is going to be as fierce as maybe we've ever seen, at least in the past decade under Bill Self.
I mean, it could be one of those guys every other night. It could be 2 of those guys on a given night. It could be one of those guys one game, and then he doesn't show up for 4 more games. I mean, it's just the advantage that Self has with this roster and the personnel that he has. He can basically do whatever works at any given point, and that means rotation-wise, that means starting wise, that means how you balance your lineup, whether you go 4 guards, 5 guards, 3 guards, whatever it is. I mean, he can do anything and everything he wants at any given time. Oh, by the way, all that's going to do when you keep doing that is push these guys and fuel them to bring their best every day, because they know, man, look at Zach Clements in New York. He was great. 7 points in 4 minutes. And then he didn't play against Tarleton. More than ever, Self's going to be able to sort of tinker with everything and mix the potion up and say, I don't need to play you this game because you don't fit this game.
I haven't even mentioned Joe Yesufu either, by the way, which is driving a stake through my heart. Thought this guy was going to be a starter. Couldn't even get on the floor versus Tarleton.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do about that? You okay?
So I'm going to start a petition. Get Joe Yesufu minutes.
That'll do it.
Yeah.